ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning into Loft Media. And this is episode 4. And I've titled this one, No Budget, No Vote. And it came from speaking to a lady downtown this week. And she was adamant. She was, a mature lady. And she and her husband were going in to vote, and she was adamant. She said, no vote, no budget. So she was definitely not going to vote for the ALP because they can't give her a budget. Now, they're working people. They have been all their lives. And she said, we've had to live by a budget all our life. And so I reflected on that, and I thought, I'll just give a little bit of a backdrop to the finances of Queensland as far as I know, because the Queensland government doesn't know where they're at. So we're all just guessing as to how many billions in debt the state is. But so from what I know, back when Labor got in around 2000, when they were there, before the LNP got in, so that's 2012, the debt for the state was at about 83 billion. Now, in the next 3 years of LNP leadership, it went to 80 billion. From then, the last 5 years, we've now exploded that debt from 80 billion to, some are saying, 110 billion. It could even be 120 billion. So you've got a premier going around the state promising billions more to be spent, but no idea where it comes from. And as this lady said, we had to budget, raise the children, educate the children, plan for a holiday. It was based on her husband's income. Surely people running the state could give us that advice. So I think she's on a winner there. No budget, no vote. Put Labor last, as she chanted that as she walked in to place her vote. In regards to finances, this is just rough figures. Queensland gets in about $60 billion a year revenue. So to put that in perspective, 60 billion comes in, and we're sitting on a debt of 120 billion. So I encourage you all to do further research on that, sort of where it goes. So the other thing during the week that I've done, I decided to look up the ALP policy platform, and it's an eye-opener. It's 116 pages long, but I just see where the ALP used to be about the Labor values, which was a fair go for all. As I read the policy platform, I call it the policy altar, where they're all worshipping, it was amazing to me the frequency of this queer and weird philosophy that they have. Look, the ALP now has forgotten their base that they came from. It was the working people. It's now pandering to all the minority groups. And that's what's through the platform. The amount of times that the sex and gender diversity issue comes up, it just amazes me. Traditional marriage is not even mentioned anywhere in their 116 pages of their platform. And I see it, this perversity, I'll call it, it goes through all areas of the government expenses. Okay, so I get back to the Labor values was everybody deserves a fair go in life. Well, I can tell you with the policies that the ALP have put through in the last little while, particularly the abortion bill, which is to birth that a child can be killed, a baby in the womb of a mother can be murdered in the womb, and now they're wanting to go to the end of life. Everybody deserves a fair go in life. The child in the womb of that mother did not get a fair go. And surely that sort of policy needs to be turned around before just this thug lot of politicians make more and more decisions that are anti-life, anti-a fair go. Okay, in the Queensland Labor platform, at item 6.42, page 59, if you want to look it up, Labor welcomes the groundbreaking Preventing Harm, Promoting Justice report on so-called ex-gay reparative or conversion pseudotherapies. Labor opposes these practices and their underlying ideology, recognising the harm they cause, and will develop strategies to work with communities to prevent such harm and promote justice for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer people affected by them. Their words, not mine. That's item 6.42. Just while I'm on that, I mean, it's an astounding thing. These are the things that just creep into the government. Recently, a friend of ours, their daughter had a baby, and the certificate, which they have to fill out, said in the one part of it, male, female, or intersex. So here's parents needing to decide whether the child that's just been born, male, female, or this general category of intersex. I mean, it just amazes me the stupidity of the people that are putting these things together. And for parents, they don't know the difference between the male child or the female child. I mean, that's been going since Adam was born. Doesn't require a lot of brain matter to decide that. That's the sort of thing that's just been going on. Now, I'll just read, because it's that sort of weird thinking that pervades their platform. Yep. And on page 91 at 8.126, Labor in government will create a sexuality and gender commissioner. 8.127, Labor in government will promote a portfolio of equality within the Queensland Cabinet. So it's a new minister for the portfolio of equality. And when you read into what this equality is, it's just one of the dumbest things out. It's got nothing to do with the talent of the person, be they male, female, or whatever other gender. It's all to do with equality. So you have to have X amount of this type of people and X amount of those. I mean, the governance that's coming on down, and it's all costing money. This is all money they haven't got, or they don't know where they're getting it from. But that's never ever stopped the socialists in the way that they run government. Socialists love chaos, and one of the areas of chaos, of course, is finance. As you know, in your own families, if the finance is all over the place, there's chaos, and that's the same as what we've got here in the government. We've got a Treasurer Dick, who hasn't got a clue about how much money is really going in and going out, and they just make up more ways to spend more. I mean, they just have to charge more in taxes if they want to balance the books. It amazes me. And item 8.238, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer questioning aged people are often isolated and vulnerable citizens in the aged care industry. So they're going to undertake research into all these sorts of things. You just get more and more cost. Now, so this is in the aged care, and then it's around in the education area, which is the huge concern. It should be to parents that this sort of teaching, this doctrine, this ideology of the Labor Party and the weird minority groups is now being taught into the schools. This is anti-family, it's anti-Queensland, and it's anti-our nation. Just a couple of side issues on their platform also is item 6.31. They're going to act to introduce fluoride into water. And I remember here on the Fraser Coast, it was a discussion that the council had when I was a councillor, and councillors voted to cease fluoride in the water. So that was the decision which the community requested. And now here we've got a government that's going to act to reintroduce it into all the water. So fluoride does have some non-benefits to people when it gets added to water. But once again, it's another cost. Someone has to pay for it. If the ALP get in, fluoride goes in, either the ratepayer pays it, which means a tax to you, the ratepayer, or the government's going to find it from bubble in the air. Item 6.35. Labor recognises the enormous increase in suicide among young Aboriginals. Now, we all know that suicide is on the increase, particularly for young people, particularly young boys. The government, it offers nothing, it just recognises the enormous increase. Their focus is not really on saving lives. It's in a weird, they've gone weird, this lot. Right throughout their platform, they never really mention jobs. I mean, they flick across various titles. And as I looked, I go, this ALP is destroying nearly every area of work for Queenslanders, unless you're a public servant. Get a job with the public service, but as for producing anything, so the public service used to be called the servants of the public. Well, they're now, I mean, they're handing down rules to everybody, and they're restricting, and I'll just run through these things, you know, the areas of our economy or where people earn money. Agriculture, which includes fisheries, forestry, and even, I noted, they will do all they can to stop live cattle exports. I mean, their hatred of the farmer is beyond belief. The resource industry, that's where royalties come from, which can help to pay off the debt. I mean, that probably needs to be told to Mr. Dick, the Treasurer, so he knows where the money comes from, so you can reduce the debt. If he's at all interested in balancing the books or doing a budget, I'm sure there's a lot of accountants in the regional areas that could probably help him do a spreadsheet and put the numbers on the pages to give him an awareness. The construction industry, manufacturing. Now we hear banging on about bringing back manufacturing. They watched it depart, and one day the trains issue, just locally here in Maryborough, the truth will come out and you'll find out who really did botch up the manufacturing of the trains here. And as for the weird promise that the Premier came through offering $1 billion for train manufacturing here, I mean, fantastic, and that sort of thing should happen, but it's another $1 billion they ain't got. Speaking of $1 billion, it was only yesterday that the Deputy Premier, or the Minister for Health, he was told he had to cut $1 billion out of wages. And I know our local member here, Bruce, when he saw that, he said, don't let this get out. I heard it from his own lips down there at pre-poll. Don't let this get out. The people will have us for garters. Okay. Aged care, education, tourism. They have crucified tourism through this over-regulation through the COVID time. So many businesses, the compassion from this ALP government towards business people is zero. They do not understand where people earn a living from. The small businesses of Queensland and Australia, but particularly Queensland, is the backbone of our nation. The government should be assisting people to earn their own income. That's how the world goes around. And through the glancing of through their ALP platform, they also want to restrict quarries. I think they need to be educated to know that from the quarries the stones come from, and that's what makes the roads. It also makes the railway lines, which is how you can grow an economy. But they're now wanting to stop people getting rocks out of the ground to build our roads. I mean, the education level and the common sense level of these people is at a minimum. On their platform, it also mentions water. Well, no more dams. And as we all know locally, they pulled down the dam wall. I don't know where they think that vegetables come from, or produce that we eat, that we live by, that we export. It does need water, and we do have plenty of water. And both the conservative sides of the proposed governments here in Queensland are also seeing the need and the practicality and the jobs, the real jobs that come from storing water. This government is also against mining. When you read through the platform, it is against uranium, and the protection of the Great Barrier Reef is just overboard. So, summarising, all their beliefs and all their focus is all around this sex, gender identity, fluidity, stuff, and services for lesbians and gays and bisexuals. For you, the farmer, nothing. For you, the small business owners, nothing. For you, the family unit, the normal, husband, wife, family, or even sole parents, nothing extra here. It's all just focused on this weird focus of this fluidity regarding sex genders. So this week I went down to pre-poll, and I was standing with Dennis Chapman, who's the LNP candidate, and also Sharon Lose, the One Nation candidate, and we were chatting around. And I was amazed the intimidation by the Red Shirt Brigade that was down there. And I thought, oh, it must be just me. But no, it wasn't. As I began to talk to people, many of them have said that they also feel intimidated by the presence of these red shirts. Many are not well behaved. And some of that behaviour began on even day one, when the LNP A-frame signs were stolen from the footpath early in the morning. And Councillor Chapman has had Councillor Chapman, who's the LNP, Councillor Chapman has been intimidated, as has Sharon Lose. I mean, they've both risen above the occasion to just not enter into that sort of behaviour. And Dennis Chapman yesterday put an article on Facebook and summarised what's happened to him. And just yesterday, one of the One Nation guys who goes around and checks on the signs, because be well aware, it's the One Nation signs and the LNP signs that are being pushed over and stolen. And the One Nation guy was driving near Torbanley and saw a fella with his little red car with chalk writing over the top of it, promoting the red shirt candidate. He was putting some of these signs in the boot of his car. He stopped him, he chucked them out and tore off in his little red car. That has been now passed on to the police. But that's the sort of thing that's going on in the background here. And also Dennis Chapman's wife in Harvey Bay was handing out how to votes, and she had to stand and cop a tirade from an ignorant, same fella actually. It's alleged it's the same man that had the little red car. and you wonder where Bruce picks up some of these people from. There's genuine people, but my goodness me, there's an element of the thuggery that Bruce is proud to be within his camp. Chatting during the week also, Bob Davis runs the Hard Yakka program. This is for the at-risk kids, and Bob's doing a fine job. He got a grant during the LNP period to run the program for these kids that basically, if they continue on their path, they'll end up in jail. And he was doing a fine job. It was going well. ALP got elected, Bruce got elected, and it was day one Bruce said that program's stopping. That's not for us. And I wondered why Bruce would say that. And I can see now it really is a grooming for young thugs. So a lot of us on the other side of politics is about trying to restore a person's life and to build them up, to encourage them, to get a better way of life. But those on the thug side is the exact opposite. And that's the sort of promotion that is going on in this town. It has to end. It will end. And that's it. So Bob's still going ahead, and he's looking for bigger and brighter days in the future. As also, while I was at pre-poll, a number of people did come to me and say that they have been threatened. Business people as well. So it's not fantasy. This is the reality, and that word's getting around town. It's a diminishing group of followers that the ALP and Bruce has here in Maryborough. Who does Bruce really think he is? He's proud to be a thug. Where did a fair go for all go? Did he ever believe in it? Or is there some other ideology? He thinks being a thug is a good thing. During the week, I came across a relatively new digital newspaper called In Queensland. I highly recommend it. Seems to be very balanced. And they send out just a few articles in the middle of the day. And there was one here, shamed and vilified. A Rocky nurse launches a complaint against the Premier and the Deputy. I'll just read from it. So it's from In Queensland. Premier Palaszczuk, the Chief Health Officer and the Health Minister are reported to the Queensland Human Rights Commission for allegedly shaming and vilifying a Rockhampton aged care nurse who worked while infectious with coronavirus. The political leaders have been referred to the state's Human Rights Commission over the treatment of a Rockhampton aged care nurse who sparked a coronavirus health emergency in central Queensland. The article goes on. The complaint lodged by the Nurses Professional Association of Queensland has been filed against the Premier, the Health Minister Stephen Miles, the Chief Health Officer and the Member for Keppel, Brittany Lawger. Said she was allegedly vilified and shamed over the controversy treatment. Premier Palaszczuk, filled with compassion, said, "I'm sorry if she feels that way, but her complaints would be investigated." I mean, this is a government that has a very minimum amount of compassion within it, and the coronavirus and some of the health matters and family matters, and that the bureaucrats and the Premier or whoever makes the decisions defies any amount of... There's just a minimum of compassion is what I'd like to say. The article reads on, and it doesn't read well for those four people. That's just in yesterday's paper. I mean, daily we have that. Last week I spoke about whistleblowers, and before you go to a government department, it might be good to run it past. We have a panel of solicitors, lawyers, experienced people who can give you some free advice before you maybe step into the cesspit of snakes of whistleblowing. And we've already received correspondence from at least one person in the first week. So it's PO Box 7701 Urangan, Hervey Bay 4655. Another matter I'd like to talk to you about is this book here, I Kid You Not. It's by a fine man, Lyle Shelton. I Kid You Not. It's a great book, and I have read it, can highly recommend it. It is selling like hotcakes. He's sold over 2,500, I think, now. And at that speed, they tell me it'll be recognised as one of the fastest selling books here in Queensland. Filled with facts and jaw-dropping incidents that he's had in his 20 years in the trenches, as he says. He also, just for your own matter, Lyle has just been dragged to an ALP-funded kangaroo court for expressing his opinion about adult entertainer drag queens that are reading to children in public. He made a comment about that, and now he has to answer to this kangaroo court. The drag queens legals are being paid by the ALP state government, and he has to fork out his own dollars for that. You know, these sort of things just have to stop. We've got, you know, the freedom of expression is that's being challenged too, and I just wonder, with another 4 years of these lunatics that we currently have in power in Queensland, where it'll be in 4 years' time. So just before you vote, the reminder that the Treasurer of the state, his unemployment, he's at the top. He's 93 out of 93. That's the Treasurer who can't do a budget. His electorate is the worst in Queensland, and fourth worst in the state is here in Maryborough. That's our electorate. Bruce's spoken about jobs. They do not come to pass. Promises, promises, promises. They don't come to pass. Vote wisely on Saturday or before Saturday, and here's to a better future for Queensland.